I've never seen such a fierce and funny movie. The ghost-possessed girl wildly attacked the priest. But when he drew his pistol, everything became clear.
Excuse me, sir.
Shut up!
66 years later, a group of college students chatted and laughed in the car, completely unaware. A black goat stood on the road ahead. After a loud bang, it lay dead. Yet the young people in the car weren't panicked. Instead, they found it fascinating to see a dead goat for the first time and stopped to take photos. They didn't realize how much danger lay ahead. Unknowingly, they disturbed a sealed demon, ready to awaken and unleash chaos. They moved on, but soon, another car appeared. Inside were two brothers, Park and Kong. A brief encounter at a supermarket had already scared the college students away due to the brothers' unnerving presence. Mina quickly slipped away, spotting a cute dog in a cart. As it turned, she noticed its owner nearby. Mina was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Nearby is that boys put on their shirts, unaware that the man's accomplice is coming.
와. 내 동생한테 시비고.
The two men traveling with their dog grew annoyed, claiming they only wanted to help. Kong felt wronged but stayed silent. Soon, they passed the black goat's corpse as a police car drove by. Two men in the suburbs carried a bag. Drawing suspicion, Officer Nam stopped them and opened the woven bag, revealing a black goat. Nam and the head officer carefully checked their IDs, suspecting they were wanted men. But the records didn't match. Despite their unsettling appearance, the brothers had no criminal record, leaving the officers no choice but to let them go. Back in the car, the head officer muttered, puzzled by how such intimidating men had never committed a crime. It seemed unreasonable. Though they seemed suspicious, their intentions were pure. They came to buy a large villa for a simple rural life. The area was truly rustic, with bumpy roads and grass brushing past their car. Soon, they arrived at their destination, a villa that looked perfect for setting up a real-life horror escape room.
뽀샵이 너무 심한가요?
Park was thrilled as they explored the pile of junk, deciding which spot to settle in. Kong, however, grumbled about spending 10 years of savings on this rundown house. Park laughed it off, but suddenly, a swarm of wasps attacked Kong. They frantically swatted them away. While exploring, they discovered a hidden compartment in the villa's floor. A secret basement came with the purchase. Inside, they found a summoning circle, a finely crafted revolver, and 2 silver plates, clearly valuable. Satisfied, they buried the black goat's body before nightfall and switched to fishing. Meanwhile, the young people arrived, setting the perfect mood for ghost stories. Lee shared a tale of a village girl who grew goat horns one day and began attacking people. The villagers captured her, bringing her to the priest, who remained unfazed despite her fierce demeanor. The enraged priest held the devil's head firmly with his thumb. Meanwhile, the girl's brother, worried about taking shortcuts, joined the priest's ranks. Strength returned to her, sparked by a stranger's pest. The innocent man who died was Lee's grandfather. After taking his first victim, the devil grew proud, leading to the opening scene. After a headshot, the devil's curse became a chilling legend in the village. Lee's grandfather gave him a spell, costing millions. Mina, however, didn't care much about it. Her thoughts consumed by Lee's stories, believing he loved her, but stepping outside, she overheard people calling her a poor countryside girl, claiming Lee was just playing with her. Heartbroken, Mina tried calling her best friend, Bora, but she was with someone else. Unaware, Mina's world felt like it was crumbling. The The sound startled the two brothers as they locked eyes with Mina. Suddenly, Mina slipped and fell into the lake, giving them a chance to play heroes. Kong quickly stripped off his jacket and dove into the water, rescuing her. They recognized her as the girl they'd seen earlier that morning. After giving her emergency aid, Mina regained consciousness. With no other choice, the brothers carried the unconscious Mina away. Nearby, Bora and Jason hid in the bushes. Witnessing the scene, they assumed Mina had been kidnapped and rushed back to gather their group. On a dark and stormy night, strange noises echoed from the goat's grave. Thunder roared as a goat's hoof broke through the ground, and lightning flashed ominously, cutting off all signals. Hearing Mina had been taken, the group panicked, feeling helpless, but Lee was more worried about his phone, filled with embarrassing videos that could ruin his image as a rising golf star. Reporting the incident to the police wasn't an option with the signal down. So they split up. Byung-ju drove down the mountain to find help, while the rest set out to find the brothers' hideout, rescue Mina, and recover Lee's phone. On the rainy road, a black goat suddenly appeared. Unable to stop, the vehicle crashed into it, only for the eerie sound of a goat's cry to echo from the passenger seat. He was terrified. This sheep might have a disease. The driver grabbed a thermos cup, shoved it into the goat's mouth, and cursed, but the sheep turned into a spirit, spat the cup at Byung-ju, dealing critical damage, then even scolded him. Next morning, Mina woke up and was tied in a blanket on the bed. She tried her best to escape from the house. After getting out of the room, she encountered Park cooking in the kitchen nearby. Seeing that, she tiptoed swiftly and held a crowbar in her hand, quickly hiding behind a column.
일어나셨어요?
Mina swung the crowbar at Kang's head, but it got stuck on the doorframe. A puppy leapt out, carrying a sacred stick, startling Mina so much that she dropped to her knees, begging for mercy. But once she calmed down, she realized the two brothers weren't bad people. They had even prepared a feast. The misunderstanding was resolved, and Mina apologized for overreacting. Meanwhile, her companions lurked outside, unsure how to rescue her. Young Jun, hearing her argue with Park, assumed trouble, but they were only debating who would wash the dishes, which Park did ceremoniously.
말로만 듣던 스톡홀름 신드롬.
Park happily chatted with the girl inside while Kong sulked outside. Meanwhile, the elder brother sawed wood but accidentally disturbed a hornet's nest. Young Jun saw a muscular man wielding a chainsaw chasing him. Terrified, he screamed for his companions to run. The boys bolted, leaving only Bora behind. Kong, still reeling from wasp stings, urged her to stop yelling and just run. She couldn't see the wasps but wasn't sure which was scarier, Kong or the invisible swarm. Panicked, she crashed into a tree. Her so-called boyfriend, instead of helping, fled without a second thought. Furious, Bora kicked the tree, dislodging an old, pierced relic. Meanwhile, Nam and his leader Choi resumed their hunt, convinced the brothers were wanted criminals. Suddenly, a Byung-ju zombie appeared on the roadside. Byung-ju, the unlucky man attacked last night, stood there. He banged on the police car, shouting as if reenacting a zombie siege. It took time for them to realize the brothers had kidnapped Mina. They rushed up the mountain. Meanwhile, Park, unaware Kong was nearly disfigured by wasps. Suddenly, a bruised man entered, spitting out a wasp. Park scolded his brother. "Happy now, you heartless fool?" But he was too focused on renovating the cottage with Mina to care. Kong couldn't help but feel jealous. His younger brother once followed him everywhere. When had he ever been so ignored? Frustrated, he took his anger out on a broken wooden log. But to young Jun, it looked like he was chopping up bodies. He believed they had even built a coffin to bury Mina alive. Cunningly, he provoked his friend Jason into storming the villa. His girlfriend was dead. He had to kill Kong for revenge and reclaim his buddy's phone. The phone was key. Fueled by rage, Jason hurled a knife at Kong. It sliced through the air but missed its mark. The assassination failed, so Jason charged straight at Kong, unable to retreat even if he wanted to. Meanwhile, Park turned and spotted Lee and Young Jun, greeting them with a sinister yet friendly smile. But in his carelessness, he kicked over a cable. Lee lunged forward only to be electrocuted. Young Jun, though shaken by his friend's fate, had no choice but to press on. However, blinded by desperation, he kept rushing forward. Chaos erupted. The two brothers were stunned. Why had so many people died at their doorstep? They thought about calling the police. But with the scene so gruesome, who would believe it was all suicide? As they tried to make sense of it, they suspected a cult, believing the victims sacrificed themselves while Mina had betrayed them. Meanwhile, a spike punctured a police car's fuel tank, forcing officers to proceed on foot. Upon arrival, they found a grave in the yard and began photographing evidence. Suddenly, Lee, presumed dead, emerged and mockingly handed out a shout. Officer Choi entered the house alone, overhearing the brothers discussing their next move. Misinterpreting their words, he assumed they were plotting to dispose of bodies, setting the stage for the final confrontation. Officer Choi aimed his gun at the brothers, ordering them to get down. They obeyed, and he pulled out his handcuffs to make the arrest. But as he leaned against a pillar, he lost balance. Stepping into spilled paint, he stumbled, touching a hot kettle. His reflexive pain triggered the gun. A chandelier crashed from above. The pistol fired again, igniting leaked gasoline. Flames erupted, catching Kang's coat. Panicked, he tried to extinguish the fire while Park grabbed 2 bottles of water. Lee grabbed the pistol from the ground and fired. He'd had enough. Today, he would fight back. The killers had even taken the brothers' dog hostage. If they threatened him, he could shoot. The brothers quickly devised a plan. Park hid behind and fired continuously to draw attention, while Kong circled around. Meanwhile, Nun was watching a horror film alone. Behind her, an elderly man lay still. He was the brother of the possessed girl. Years ago, he had taken a single misstep, causing an exorcism to fail, leading to the tragic death of Lee's grandfather. The priest had handed him a Bible back then, warning with grave sincerity, "The devil will return again. You must stop it."
I don't know English.
The priest stormed off in anger, his desperate shouts echoing in the air, but he never looked back. Meanwhile, the first thing the old man did upon waking was search for the holy book. The scripture foretold that in 66 years and 6 months, the devil would return. 5 evil men would be responsible for unleashing it, and they too would become sacrifices. Once the ritual was complete, the devil's power would peak, and hellfire would engulf the world. Outside, Kong was tied, tormented by Lee and another. He had no way to prove his innocence. Meanwhile, Park, who had come to check on him, was mockingly labeled the one-shot director. Mina, desperate to clear their names, quickly explained to Lee that they were all innocent. But instead of believing her, Lee sneered coldly. He stepped forward and pulled a phone from Mina's pocket.
하여튼 거지 새끼들은 착각도 잘해요. 그러니까 맨날 친구란 놈들한테 뒤통수나 쳐맞는 거야. 이 병신 새끼들아!
Byung-ju was furious at Lee, screaming at him non-stop. Years of bottled-up resentment had turned him into a ticking time bomb. He no longer cared about anything. Determined to ruin Lee, he threatened to post everything online. But before he could act, Bora's pierced body dropped to all fours and sprinted wildly, chasing Byung-ju deeper into the forest like a possessed goat. Everyone froze in shock. momentarily forgetting the legend of the goat ghost. Terrified, Lee pointed his gun at them, demanding their car keys. He had to get out immediately. He couldn't stay another second. But just as he opened the door, Byung-ju, now possessed by the goat ghost, crashed through the window. In a panic, Lee grabbed the talisman his grandfather had given him. His friend froze at the sight of it. It seemed invalid and chaos erupted. In the scuffle, Lee lost his balance and tumbled into the basement. A violent shock followed, then eerie silence. At that moment, 5 lives had converged, fulfilling the devil's return. Black smoke billowed out, and Lee became a devil. The old priest finally arrived, raising his cross and shouting at the devil. Officer Nam finally regained consciousness. The explosion left him bare. He had to strip Officer Choi's pants. Meanwhile, the devil grinned wickedly, ready to engulf everyone in hellfire. Without hesitation, he tossed a lighter, igniting the diluent on the floor. Flames roared as several people rushed out of the room, but the demon remained unscathed. Instead, he summoned the dead, turning them into zombies. Even Choi, now in just his underpants, danced weirdly. Kong grabbed a chainsaw, defeated them. Then, with a sledgehammer in one hand and a chainsaw in the other, they launched their final attack. Nam arrived just in time and told Mina about the priest's gun with a silver bullet, the key to defeating the devil. But as she searched, she found the pistol broken in 2. Desperate, she nearly cried. Then, the puppy barked, revealing the last silver bullet. She quickly loaded it, sensing danger. The devil transformed into a handsome figure, trying to seduce her. For a moment, she hesitated, but remembering past betrayals, she fired. The gun jammed. The devil grabbed her throat, choking her. As she neared suffocation, the brothers reconnected the power, shooting the silver bullet into the devil's head. Suddenly, the sky darkened as a colossal beast emerged from the clouds, seizing the out-of-control demon. It was over. Just as the prophecy foretold, the 3 kind gods had led to victory. If you find the video interesting, please give it a like. Click on the subscribe button in order not to miss the incoming video. Goodbye and see you in the next video.